Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's preview time. Brighton versus Aston Villa. It's been a happy hunting ground in recent years. Not necessarily just at Amex, but playing Brighton in general. 2 wins out of two last season in the Premier League, mate. And we'll be looking to end the first half of the season on somewhat of a high, mate, won't we?
Yeah, I'm sad, mate. I'm sad. I really want the Unai era to kick off and to get build the momentum but the World Cup is unfortunately going to put a stop to that. And I think there's teams throughout Europe that can do with the international break, and there's things that means teams can probably do without it as well. I'm not sure quite where Villa sit on that spectrum, but I'm sad. I've enjoyed what I've seen so far, and yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that we have to say goodbye to it, especially on the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, it will be a very good game, I think.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's going to be interesting because I think when Graham Potter left, it almost felt like, oh my God, what are Brighton going to do? But as we've spoken about on previous podcasts, mate, they just ran so well, and I don't want to say they've taken a punt on De Zerbi because he's proven at Sassuolo and at Shakhtar that he is a competent manager and is capable of getting a team in a weaker league to the sort of peripherals and into European competitions and stuff like that. And he definitely has some fine tools at his disposal at Brighton. But to come in and in your first game draw 3-3 to Liverpool and then they beat Chelsea a few weeks ago and they give City a really good game as well. There's been games that Brighton have lost, which they definitely should have won during this era as well. I think it's fair to say. Um, but they've come off what is a really impressive win against Arsenal. Looking at the Arsenal side, I didn't realise how second string it was, but nevertheless, you would expect Arsenal at home to get the job done against the Brighton, regardless of who's playing. And if you look at Arteta and what a cup would look like for him if he can make, obviously they're challenging for the league. I think it's fair to say, but if you can get a cup on the way, then that's obviously really good. But I'm a little bit more worried than I was the other night after seeing this 3-1 win on the road, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's De Zerbi's been a really interesting appointment. I mean, the first thing, they actually sit higher now than Chelsea in the league. Brighton are sixth. Brighton are sixth in the table. They are, yeah, they sit, albeit on goal difference, but I don't think Brighton fans will care about that. Higher than Graham Potter's Chelsea, and the sentiment in their fans is that they don't miss him. They don't miss him.
No.
They're very happy with De Zerbi ball. It's a little bit faster. It's a little bit quicker in terms of the pace, and they're really enjoying it. And it did take them a little while to get the points on the board that perhaps their playing style deserved. Obviously, you mentioned that draw with Liverpool. They then, went 4 games without a win. It included losses to Spurs, to Brentford, to City, and the other game was a 0-0 draw with Forest. And then all of a sudden it just exploded with that 4-1 win against Chelsea, and everything that sort of surrounded that match, I think, just lit a spark in that Brighton side. And then from there, they've won their next 2 games, and then they'll come into this Villa game. I think one of those sides that don't want the World Cup to come. I think they'd very much keep, if you offered them a chance to keep playing football, keep this momentum going, they'd very much take it. And I think they'll be seeing this as a very winnable game. They've signed some really good players. We know how good that team is. And yeah, I think you have to say a lot. I think we'll see two brilliant managers on the touchline. And I think the tactical battle and the two contrasting playing styles and how whether we try and take this game to Brighton or whether we try and hit on the counter attack as we did in that second game against United will be really interesting. But yeah, they're an exciting team, and the fact that, as you say, mate, it all looked a little bit worrying when Potter left. The fact they've never looked back is testament to Brighton.
It is, man. It is, and what I find interesting about Brighton is and it it doesn't really come as much of a surprise when you consider how like trying to implement that style and it being a little bit turgid, but it's sustained pressure, sustained possession, very high octane. The actual, the way they line up, as you alluded to in the last podcast, mate, very similar 4-2-2, which allows, they play with more width than we do with this sort of 4-2-2. So you've got the likes of your Solly Marches of the world or your Alexis McAllisters quite high and wide, looking to really isolate fullbacks. But it's okay because they've got they've got Caicedo. Gilmore's been playing a little bit more recently as well. Caicedo really does sweep up, and he can almost orchestrate the whole of the middle of the park by himself, which is really remarkable. He's a fantastic player. Some top scouting has been done there, mate. But yeah, as you say, we kind of, although there's similarities in the way we kind of set up and the sort of shape, albeit a little, slightly more narrow for Villa. At the moment with Emery, we're looking to counter teams. So it's going to be quite interesting because, like, man for man, I think more so than we've seen in any of these games, there's going to be a real emphasis on winning your individual duels if Villa are going to get something from this game.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. They've got so many interesting players, so many technical players. They've got the ability to really rotate. Their level of the squad is quite consistent. Obviously, you've got guys like Kawa and Matoma who have come in seemingly out of nowhere. They signed him for pennies out of the J League, and he's been fantastic. So I think this is a game where it's really important to nail down those wide areas to get guys like Leon on the ball. Because they've got so many technical players coming in from those wide spots. It's going to be. Actually really looking forward to it. There's so many interesting matchups across the pitch. I think our lineup will be really interesting on this one. And so, yeah, I mean, as you say, I think it is about whether we can control those key areas and keep their key players quiet. Obviously, you've got Trossard and guys like that who are also influencing the game massively from those. So I think it's a big job for the fullbacks. Be interesting to see how we go, whether it would be Dean and Cash or Ashley stays in. I think the team selection will be really interesting on this one.
It will, because Unai's had the chance now to have a good look at everybody. Everybody's had a bit of a run out, whether it be in the cup game or his first game against Manchester United. So he's going to know who he wants where. And I think, when you look at, as you mentioned, mate, Matoma, fantastic player, exploded out of absolutely nowhere. I think that's what's exciting about this because, like, we spoke about Sanson, players like that who've been cast away. I don't think Sanson will start this game, but there's so many players that can be and will be afforded a second shot, and I think could explode at any given point. So it's going to be interesting how this one works out, and especially like when you look at the fullbacks. I mean, they've got the likes of Lamptey, Joel Veltman's played there. He can play there as well. Pascal Gross can play there. Estupian on the left. We've even seen the likes of Trossard play at full back. If they've been playing a back three, I don't think they'll play that. But Trossard, another, as you mentioned, mate, he's been fantastic. Scored against City, scored against Chelsea, scored against Liverpool. He's a man really in form. And when you look at someone like Leon as well, who again is coming into that form, it's going to be interesting. I think these two are going to be the two difference makers for the sides. And if we can restrict the amount of touches that Trossard has in and around the box, I think we should be okay. But again, you kind of have to stop the threat early with the early crosses from the fullbacks there, don't you, mate? That's going to be key. And sort of managing where they're going to look to try and overload us. I'm looking at this, mate, and I think, if I'm being completely honest, it's going to be the exact same 11 that started against Manchester United. Looking at how well they performed, I think they'll be rewarded with that performance. And obviously, we've got no Phil who can come off the bench, but I think we have the players to manage this game however it goes, mate. If we go a goal down, I think we'll have players that we can bring on off the bench and hopefully get something from this game. I'm feeling optimistic because it's Emery. I have no other reason to. Because away games, as we were speaking about off air, mate, they've been pretty difficult for us this season.
Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting test, mate. I mean, Brighton are sort of the side that everybody likes to watch. They've got a lot of players who are doing really interesting things. I think they can, they perennially feel like guys like Lewis Dunk are a snub for the England side and stuff like that, which says a lot about where they're at as a club. And yeah, but it's equally as important for us because I think it defines how we feel about the Unai Emery. We don't want to go into all that positivity, go into that World Cup break with 2 defeats on the bounce. I think at the very least we have to go and play well and try and take a. And so, yeah, I think of this game is really important because you don't want to put a downer on things just when things were feeling so positive after that win against United. Yeah, you're only as good as your last result in this game, unfortunately. So, how with you sort of going into this World Cup? I don't want to say it's dependent on this game, but there's a lot.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's like, I think for confidence more than anything, and like the message that it will send to the squad, because we've got a lot of players who are staying back from the World Cup. Not too many are going. So if we can get a win, and then it's just a month of, whether it be at Bodymore or if it's a foreign training session for a week or two, like a nice little camp away, just really drill into Emery ball, and we should be good. We should be absolutely good. Um, Bit of a shorter preview today. We've recorded back to back, so forgive us on that one. But Dan will be with you to give you content after the Brighton game. He'll give you the debrief, whether that's a short, whether that's a podcast. We're undecided, but Dan's
Depends
got
on
you
the
guys
result,
covered.
mate. Depends
Yeah,
on the
I
result.
have a feeling it's going to be a short, but I'm okay with that. So yeah, just we really appreciate you guys for watching and for listening, and for all the new people who've joined us recently, and all the old guys, so the OGs. We see you all. We'd love for you guys to get involved in the comments. If you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at VillaPod. Follow us on TikTok at Heart of the Holte. We see clips of this. Interact with the shorts on YouTube as well. Again, we're just trying to make the podcast as accessible as possible for all. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.